way before you have to get going?
Whatever you guys need, I'll be all right.
Okay. Usually we're very long-winded, so just so you know,
Boy.
you can go like this.
4-hour show.
Yeah, usually we're like a 5-hour show, so just hit cut when you're.
I don't have
when
5 hours.
All right. Okay. Ready. All right. You got music, Scott? You got music at all or no? Okay. Here we go. John, edit. Hello and welcome to Techlandia. It's like Regis and Kathy today because we're going at 4:30 p.m. my time on a Wednesday. How crazy is that? That's just the kind of wackadoodles we are over the summer. I'm iPad Sammy. I could be coming to you from the last time from Austin, Texas, because over in Portland, Oregon, we have the lovely and talented
Allison Anderson, also known as Ted Rose CC on Twitter.
And filling in for Blue Steel. There's the crickets from Blue Steel. We have the also lovely and talented over in California, Scott Bedley, everybody.
And I am at Scott.
Which Twitter handle are you plugging today?
I just changed it today, and I am at Scott the Teacher in California. So no, I'm at Scott Teach or Task Fair.
I was with you for a second, then you're like, you went like way over. You went like over 140 characters just in your title right there, so I knew that was a lie. All right. Okay, and so we're very happy to have Colby Sharp on with us today. Colby is from Michigan, but where are you coming to us from? What conference are you at? Tell us what you're doing.
I am at the All Right Conference in Warsaw, Indiana, and this is a conference that celebrates reading and writing in the classroom. So excited to, tomorrow I'm speaking on empowering students to share their story.
Cool.
That's important. That sounds good. So this is and it's called the All Right Conference?
Yes, ALLWRITE.
How did I not think of that? That is a great title right there. That's pretty all right, if you know what I mean. Okay, so Colby, we're interested in I was talking with my good friend, and watch this name drop, Allison, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Brad Wilson. And so anyway, I was talking with Brad, and so I started just doing some research on you, and I feel embarrassed to not know these things, but I stumbled onto your Nerd Camp video, and he was telling me about the Nerdy Book Club and all these things, and I thought, gosh, this sounds really interesting. And then I watched your cool video, and then Ben Gilpin was in it, looking all dapper and fly, and I'm like, I'm in a Voxer group with Ben Gilpin. How have I not been, knowing about this? So I wanted to have you on there because it seemed like you were having this great like conference festival thing, almost like an event. There's like running, there's authors coming in, it's just all this great stuff, and I thought this sounds really cool, and I have to admit I don't know that much about it from what I looked at, but I thought, who better to get the story from than the man himself? And so we were glad that you could take some time to talk with us.
My pleasure.
So all right, so tell us however you want to start off the story. You want to start with the Nerdy Book Club, if you want to start with how you thought about Nerd Camp, whatever you want to start with, I'm all ears.
Sure. So in 2011, I started a blog with Donalyn Miller, the Book Whisperer. She's from Texas. We started a blog called the Nerdy Book Club blog, and what it is, it's a blog about teaching reading in books, and we run a post every day by a different person. People sign up, and we contact them and have them write a 500 to 1,000 word post about how getting kids excited about reading, about a book, top 10 list, all kinds of things. Every Tuesday we have a children's book author who writes a post for us, and we've had a post every day since December 1st, 2011. Yeah.
Who is managing all this, Colby?
Well, we started with Donalyn and I, and then I got really stressed. So we added Cindy Minnick, a teacher in Pennsylvania, high school teacher in Pennsylvania, and that went pretty good for about 2 years, and then I got stressed out again, so we added a teacher, Catherine Sokolowski, Catsok, C-A-T-S-O-K on Twitter, from Illinois, and since then it's been going pretty good, a lot less stress for me. And so that's been going pretty good. And then I was at the McCall conference last year, which is the Michigan Technology Conference, and a lot of people were talking about Ed Camp Detroit, and I didn't really know much about Ed Camps, and I said, well, I want to have an Ed Camp because it looks like Nick Provenzano is having a lot of fun, the nerdy teacher, so if he can do it, maybe we can do it. But I wanted it to have that connection to literacy. I wanted to have that connection to reading workshop, to giving kids choice in the books that they read. So we decided to throw Nerd Camp. We decided that, hey, let's do a Ed Camp with a literacy twist. So we ran that last summer in Battle Creek, Michigan, and it was great. We had about 170 people there, and it was really, really good. This year we decided to do it again. We moved it. I moved school districts. So I now teach in the same district as Ben Gilpin, your buddy there. And my wife, Elena Sharp, and Suzanne Gibbs, another teacher there, were kind of leading a team to do it again this year. This year we decided to add a second day, a half of a day. So on Monday we'll have a half day with scheduled sessions, more like a traditional conference. We have so many people coming from all over. I think we have 18 or 19 states, Canada. We have people coming from all over, and they asked if we could have more. Wow. We're driving in, we're flying in. You know, the one day is great. Is there any way we could have more? So we added the half day. And then we said, hey, let's do a run because that sounds fun. And iPad Sammy, Ben Gilpin tells me you're quite the runner. So I was supposed to. He actually told me to ask you.
Well.
But so we're having a nerd run, and then.
Yeah. Well, I used to be a runner.
Yeah, John. What was your mile time? John, what was your mile time?
It was like 4:38. I'll make 4:39. I'll make it higher than it was. It was in the 4:30s, and I finished last. But that was my best mile time.
I'm impressed.
So there you go. And I did run a 1:55 800. So there you go. But now I didn't drive that fast. So there you go.
We love
it. If you're listening to the show right now and you're not following Colby, I'm going to do my best Kurt right now. He is at COLBYSHARP. Look at that. You need Kurt back right away. That's COLBYSHARP, Colby Sharp. And follow him on Twitter if you're not already.
Thanks, Scott.
That's good. Colby, was your wife the one that was running in the video too, right?
Yeah, she kind of stole the show in the video, I would say. So if you do get a chance to see the video, there's Brad Wilson put together a nice video, and after watching it, I was pretty proud of it. Brad did a good job. I was excited, and I asked my wife how many takes it took her, because it took me about 25. Brad Wilson was very patient with me, and my wife said it took her one take, and she looked at me like, why would it take any more than one take to film a video? So that was very, very depressing. But yeah, just to kind of wrap that up. We'll have day 2. We'll have Nerd Camp, with the Ed Camp all day. But what I'm really excited this year is we added a Nerd Camp Junior, and we got our county intermediate school district to. They purchased enough books so that 300 kids could get a free book, 300 kids get a notebook, 300 kids get a mechanical pencil. We found sponsors to pay for a pizza dinner. We found 12 authors, 12 children's book authors from all over the Midwest chose to donate their time and come in and teach these kids how to be better writers. So each of these kids, we've actually are now, I think, up to about 345 kids that are registered for that event, free event. So I'm so excited that we're going to have all those kids in there and they get a chance to learn from their heroes. That I'm really excited. Nerd Camp Junior is kind of my baby. My wife, Elena, she's really good at the details, and she kind of makes Nerd Camp happen. We would be lost without her. So she can take care of all of those details, all of the planning, and just make it run smoothly for everyone that comes. And so we were able to add Nerd Camp Junior this year. I'm really stoked about getting kids. So often I feel like we go to these conferences and we have all these teachers and all these administrators, and that's great, but I just feel like so often things get too far away from the kids. And anytime that we can get kids involved and it just makes it so much more fun for one, but I think it's what it's all about. It helps us to keep things in perspective.
Colby, what does it look like for somebody going to this? Like, give us like a glimpse of what you walk into when you're experiencing this.
Yeah, so if you walk in, let's say you come day one to the day that is like a traditional conference. We'll actually have an illustrator who will be painting, a children's book author who will be painting. So as you come in and you register, you get your swag bag. He'll be painting pictures and drawing things and talking about his process. You'll find your room, and that day will run very much like a traditional conference. Teachers will be leading sessions in classrooms, and then we have a keynote at the end of the day. Then hopefully a bunch of us will go to the nerd run. Very interesting. We have 40 people registered currently for the nerd run. Ben Gilpin is the only man, right? So far. So
he's such a manly man. He's a manly man.
Got that locked down. So that'll be that, and then we'll have a kind of a get-together for all the speakers and authors that night. Come back, and the next day will be the Ed Camp model, and that'll be where we start the day with a blank schedule, and the people there will just kind of come in and decide what they want to learn about, what they want to talk about. We do ours a little bit different. I guess I don't know if it's different, but we only schedule the morning sessions at the beginning. And then we kind of have our half day of learning, and then depending on what people learn about, if there's something they want to talk about more, then they can, and then we schedule the afternoon after lunch, just giving people the flexibility of, oh, we learned about this morning, I really want to learn more about this, or this made me think about this, now we can go and learn about that. So we kind of do the schedule half a day at a time.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I've been to like, I don't know, at least over 10 or 12 ed camps, and I've never been to one that does it that way, but now that you say that, it makes complete sense. Doesn't
Totally.
Scott's been to a bunch, and so has Allison. That makes much better sense to me.
Makes a lot of sense. In fact, I'm going on Saturday.
It's like one of those simple innovations that you're just like, right, that sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then so when is and so then the day after that is Nerd Camp Junior then?
Nerd Camp Junior is the second night.
Oh, second night, okay.
We wanted 2 days. We couldn't do 3 days. We just wanted
that's too much.
Plow through and 2 days.
Wow. So that's cool, and so I think that's awesome, because as much as we sit here, Scott and I, and Allison knows this because Allison's on Voxer with me too, and she knows the grouchy old man all too well. Like, I sit there and gripe about this stuff all the time, but it seems like that's what I thought was really interesting. Like, you're doing it. Like, you're like, yeah, we need to make this about the kids. We need to do this. It's going to be free. We're going to bring in a bunch of authors. I mean, it just sounds really cool. I don't know why, if you lived anywhere within driving distance from Michigan and you were elementary school teacher or interested in reading and writing, why you wouldn't just hop on and go over there, because you can still sign up right now. How many people do you have signed up?
I think we're at 435.
435, wow.
Yeah,
You said you had 19 states represented last time, huh?
Yeah, we have people from all over. So but I think I really don't like presenting by myself. Anytime that I present, if it's within 2 hours, I always bring students with me and put them up on stage, just because I don't know. I think that they're the experts, and if it's about me, then I think it really loses what it's about. Plus, I just like my students. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah, that always helps. I mean, you're right. I always said I love teaching. If it wasn't for those darn kids, no, you'd say that in the lounge, and hi hat. But yeah, I think that's great. I mean, right? If you can bring the kids in there, I mean, I think that I can't wait to hear about how it goes with the kids and the learning from the authors, and these authors just coming in and donating their time and working with everybody. That sounds awesome.
How'd you connect with these authors?
Well, I have a lot of connections just through Twitter, through the Nerdy Book Club, a lot of friends that way, in different conferences that I met them at. And then, so if I have a couple authors, I'm like, I really need an illustrator. I'd really like to get someone who does comics, and I would talk to somebody else, and then they could refer people and help us out there. Plus, we bought, every author that's coming, we bought 80 of their books. So what was really cool is we bought, 50 kids will get free book from each author. And then they'll get a lot, maybe 2 books now that we have so many authors. We've had to keep adding authors. But what was also cool, our intermediate school district, is they bought a set of books, 1 book from each author, and put it in each school library in our county, so that the kids could get familiar with the authors and the teachers could talk about the authors, and so that it wasn't just 12 random authors that they hadn't heard of.
That's really cool. All right, so I'm going to go back. Can I backpedal a little bit then? So when you start the website, and from what Brad Wilson tells me, they're like a band of like crazed World Cup fans. Like they are passionate about books. You have built up this cult following basically, and so so how did you decide on the website? Like how did you get together with Donalyn in Texas and just decide, okay, we're going to do this? Like what was it, how did that come about?
So there was this book, and it's called Hound Dog True by Linda Urban. Linda's a Vermont author, and we were talking about that book on Twitter, and we were saying that this is one of those books that is so special and so important for kids to read, but it's never going to win any major awards. It's never going to win the Newbery Medal or the National Book Award. It's never going to be one of those books. So we said we should just start our own website and have our own awards so that the books that should win. So that was kind of where it came. And we had joked about Nerdy Book Club. We had always had the hashtag, like, I packed 10 books in my suitcase, hashtag Nerdy Book Club. Or I always have a book at the dentist office. Just all kinds of silly things like that. So it's kind of born out of that. The weird thing is, so when we start this website, we have this award, and then the book we wanted to win didn't even win. That's how it goes. Yeah.
That's all right. Well,
John, it started with an award. We wanted to have our own book award, so we would just have these posts each day. We kind of just talk to the people we knew on Twitter, and got them to write like a post. We call them Reading Lives posts. Those are the type of posts we run on Monday, where they just talk about a story about their life as a reader, as a kid, as an adult, leading up to the awards. And then we had the awards, and all these people were reading the blog, and all these people were excited about it. So then we figured we should try to keep it going. So, yeah. What I love most, and what I'm, I guess, proudest of the blog, is it's not blog, it's not Donalyn's blog, it's not Catherine or Cindy's blog. It's a community. I mean, we feel that every reader has value and voice in our community. I'm not more important than anyone else that posts on the blog. You know, we all have equal say. Every reader has value and voice in this community, and you know, I really think that it is like a bunch of World Cup crazy soccer fans.
It is.
Readers.
I know. And did you hear that Spain just lost again? The defending champs are probably out of the round. I'm shocked. I'm shocked. Scott Bailey didn't hear that. I'm sorry. He probably has it TiVo'd because he's.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Spoiler.
I think that was one of the things, Colby, that I thought was really cool in your video too. And you're like, we all have equal voice. We're all doing this, and then you're talking about like going and speaking, and it's not about you, and sharing it with the students. I think that that's a theme that as we go on in EdTech, or as I think I know a little bit more about EdTech, I think that some people could kind of take a step back and take a little bit of a humility lesson like that, and be like, you know what? It's not really about me. It's about trying to get kids to learn, or it's about bringing kids in with authors in this big conference. I mean, that just sounds so cool what you're doing with the students. That I don't know. My hat's off to you. I really think that that's awesome.
Thanks. It's fun.
Tell us about the start. So on your second point, tell us about the student news team. Then let's go with the student theme and keep going with it a little bit. So you have some student news teams. I always think these are so cool. And when I get a job back in schools, I've got to start one of these little student news crews and start doing. I would love to do that.
Yeah, so we started this. This is my first year teaching third grade. I went from fourth grade in one building one in Battle Creek, Michigan, to third grade. I actually teach in the school that I went to as a kid, which is kind of fun. I can see my parents' house from my classroom window, which is just neat. But you know, talking with Brad Wilson, he's big on student news teams. So whenever I'm talking to him, it seems like he always brings up student news teams. So I figured towards the end of the year, I think the last few months, we decided that we would try it out. And the whole time I was thinking, I just want to start the year over so that these can become something that we do all year, because it's such a powerful way for kids to share their story, for kids to talk about what's going on in class, what we're learning about in class, what's going on with the school. They'll interview the principal, or they'll interview the lunch lady, they'll interview their gym teacher, or we're a Leader in Me school, so we study the 7 habits of highly effective people. And each week, a kid would decide to do a habit. That would be one of our new segments. They would go out and they would create this play, basically, where they would act out being proactive or beginning with the end in mind. But what was really cool, what was really fun is we went on a field trip, an overnight field trip in 3rd grade, which I was very terrified.
Oh, yeah, that's young for the overnight field trip. Okay.
Yeah, we went to Mackinac Island, which is a pretty sweet place in Michigan. There's no cars on the entire island. It's like, stepping back in time 100+ years. It's crazy. But we study Michigan history, so we had learned a lot about the island and the history and the different things about northern Michigan. And that the week before we went, they all chose a news segment that they wanted to learn more about, and then they filmed their news segment on the island. So you have all these 8 and 9-year-olds running around with iPads and smartphones and filming, at the Mackinac Bridge or at one of the forts, and it was just a really awesome way for us to be able to share our learning, for them to be able to do something that wasn't like some boring, here's a worksheet, fill it out as you go to the different places. That was one of the coolest things we've ever done. So I'm really excited.
Audience too.
Yeah. I'm excited to start the year with that next year. That just becomes part of what we do. I think it'll be bi-weekly, like on a Monday, they'll get their news segment, and then they'll have till the next Wednesday to finish it, and we can, hear it on Friday. So I'm really, just it gives them a chance to share their voice and give I just can't say enough about how powerful that was for my kids.
That's cool. That is really cool. I was 4th grade as well, and then we took our kids overnight, and I was like, ooh, overnight in 4th grade when I came down to Texas. I'm like, that's kind of we waited, and when I went to school in Illinois, when I was young back in the 50s, we went 6th grade, we would go on the overnight field trip, and then that was it. But yeah, it seems like it keeps moving down a little bit, but I don't think those are what kids remember a lot, too. I mean, those are like the really memorable moments when you can do that together as a class. I think it's not a bad thing if you can get those overnight field trips every now and then, if they're relevant to what's going on with what you're supposed to learn.
Yeah.
Their standards. That's interesting. Okay, so that Brad Wilson, he doesn't know what he's doing, does he? That's my motto. He just doesn't know.
One of my greatest fears is I'm so worried that Brad Wilson is gonna leave and go to some other job, become the president of the world or something. If I was president, if I had a say in who to nominate, that is one of the smartest people I have ever met. He spent, and be able to teach in the same county as him now, and have him, he spent a couple days in my classroom this year, and to be able to learn from him, I'm like, dude, I don't know what you have, big plans you have in front of you, but you can do whatever you want. That dude is just magical. He's amazing guy.
Yes, did you also hear the news? Maybe we should launch the news. Brad Wilson, a new homeowner.
Yes.
Just bought a house, so there we go. He has other news too, but I don't know if he wants that shared, so I won't share that news. So when we're going through, students seems to be a theme with you, so you're all about the students. So do you have your students at conferences with you when it's conference time?
Yeah, we have student-led conferences. Every
cool.
classroom, I think, starting in 2nd grade and some in 1st grade, we all do student-led conferences.
And so tell us a little bit about that, because I know that some teachers are always death scared of that, and then I was always kind of under the impression whenever a kid was at the conference, I always felt like there's nothing I couldn't say or go. I didn't really say, let's say, do student-led conferences, but I would kind of defer to them a little bit and say, well, how do you think you're doing, and going like that. But I was never one of those people. I knew that in some districts you're like, oh gosh, I don't want the students at my conference. I'm like, there's nothing that I'm going to say to the parent that I shouldn't be saying to the student anyway. So that's kind of always been one of my, and then people would always kind of look at me like, oh gosh, Grandpa Sammy, he's so grouchy. But I think it's a great idea to have students at conferences. It never really bothered me. Scott Bedley, have you ever had students at conferences?
Yeah, I've always done it that way. I like it because I always tell the parents, and the kids, you're gonna be the one doing the work. So you need to be there as part of the goal setting, as part of the look at it. You know, I love it. Any way I can include kids, I love it. The custodians needs to go to work right now.
You have wait, did you just say you have custodian-led conferences? Now that's an innovation right there I didn't think of. So, all right, so yeah, Colby, tell us a little bit about like how your format is. There are a lot of teachers out there that don't have students present at their conferences and might be interested a little bit in like how that shakes down and how that formulates.
Well, our principal does a really nice job of, preparing us for it, letting us know, like, if you have a problem that you need to share with parents, like, you probably should be sharing it way before conferences.
Mm-hmm.
So, we look at conferences as a celebration, celebration of what we're doing and what we're learning. If we got issues or things we got to talk about, conferences, that's not the most important place for us. We need to talk about that a long time before conferences, and that's not really the place. So the first thing is we look at conferences as a celebration. I think that's a huge maybe a shift for some teachers. It's not necessarily this is how your kid is doing. I'm hoping that the parents of my kids know how their kid is doing, and that we can use conferences as a way to celebrate the cool things that we're doing, the cool things that the kids are creating. So I think if you look at it that way as a celebration, then it's a lot easier to think about what a student-led conference would look like.
I think I'd rather do that and then do an open house. I'd rather just have the parents come. Here, we're going to celebrate real quick. Here, we're going to show off some work. And you can just do it personally instead of like at an open house where there's everybody running around and you're trying to put stuff up. You can see that I'm not really one, if you look back here, I'm not really one to decorate or anything like that. I'll decorate at the beginning of the year, and then if I change up my bulletin board, it's a rare occasion. But I think that's a good way to look at it then. It's like, here's some work that we're doing right, and it's not about. I think that that's a mind shift for people. A lot of people look at it. Conferences. Here, I'm gonna talk to this kid's parent and set them straight, and tell them what they need to improve. And I don't know. Sometimes it shouldn't really work that way. It shouldn't work that way. We need to shift the mind, the focus of teaching, I think, a little bit. But that's cool. Have you ever had any problems with a student? Have you ever thought like, oh gosh, I've gone down a road at a student-led conference? Have you ever thought that isn't the way to go, or has every experience been pretty decent for you?
Well, I think sometimes it's a little uncomfortable when the kid is, really struggling through the conference.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's good for the parents to see, like, this kid doesn't have his stuff together, and we have practiced, and we are ready, and, maybe that's telling us something there, too. So, it's all on them.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
I'm there to facilitate, and I'm there to answer questions, and if they parents want to have a conversation about something that they're concerned about, absolutely we can. But, yeah, I think that sometimes I get a little uncomfortable when it's not going as well as it probably should. But I think the parents can see that it's, maybe they can have some things we need to work on.
Hey, Colby.
Yes, sir.
What would you say to a parent that would say, hey, that's your job to be leading the conference. Why are you having kids do this? I've had that happen very rarely, but I'm just curious what you would say in those situations where your parents coming in saying, like, that's your job. You should be leading this conference.
I think I'd talk to them about why we do student-led conferences, and if they had a problem with it, no big deal. A kid can go out. I can do a traditional conference. It's not. I have bigger battles to fight on.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that. Okay, so we talked to you a lot, Colby. You've been. I love all the stuff you're sharing. I think it's awesome. So now we bring you to. Let's see. Here are Colby's Twitter users to follow, and I'm sure he has good Twitter people to follow. So go ahead and give us your first person.
All right, my first person is my wife, Sharps Galore, and the reason that I'm saying my wife is because without Sharps Galore, Elena Sharp, my lovely wife, Nerd Camp would be the biggest flop ever. I would have all of these people, and I would be embarrassed by how awful it went. Because she is the queen of details. She makes things, I'm like, do we really need to do that? Do we really need to have signs? Like, she has these brilliant signs and no one is lost. And, the whole breaking the Ed Camp schedule up, that was her idea. And I also think, I'm sure maybe I'm biased. Maybe I think she's one of the top high school chemistry teachers in the country. She's brilliant. The things that she does with her students, it's just absolutely, I'm blown away. The way that she's transferred to standards-based grading, it's just makes me wish that I could go back to high school and not hate chemistry. So that's number one.
That's cool. All right. Well, that's like any good husband. You share your wife first, and Allison knows that behind every great person there is the other person. That is what Brandon is. What's Brandon's Twitter handle, by the way, Allison?
I think it's CC Rose Ted. No.
CC Rose Ted. We do want to wish Brandon, Allison's husband, a happy 40th birthday. Hey. So he just had his 40th birthday.
Yep, it was
And
a good one.
He is it takes a good man to stand behind Ted Rosisi. That's all we got to say. All right, go ahead and give us your second one, Colby. Sorry, I digress as I always do. It's the ADHD. I'm sorry. I'm off my meds in the afternoon.
The next one is at Suz, S-U-Z _Gibbs, Gibbs. And Suzanne Gibbs is a fourth grade teacher in my district. She's one of Ben Gilpin's fourth grade teachers.
She was in the video, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and her and Elena, my wife, are really the detail people, and they're really going after things. And I'm not real good with the details, John. I have some ideas, but I can't. Big picture, yeah. So
yeah, you're a big picture guy, right?
Yeah, those two are really rocked Nerd Camp, and not just that, they're both great teachers too, great people. The third one, Linda Urban Books. Linda Urban. Urban. She is actually the author of the book that started the Nerdy Book Club, and she's starting to dabble in some work with student notebooks. That I hope that she decides to write a book for teachers or for kids about just what it means to have a writer's notebook. So she's really not only an amazing author, but she cares tremendously about her readers and about education. So I think Linda Urban Books is a must follow.
Okay. That's a good one. And the book that got you started was called Hound Dog True, correct?
Hound Dog True, yeah. My favorite line from that book is, "You can't have brave without scared."
And tell me, what grade would you? Was that when you were teaching third grade, Colby? What grade is that book?
I read it to my fourth graders when I used to teach fourth grade. I would say probably independently would be a great book, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade.
Okay.
Read aloud 4th grade. Some kids could read it 3rd or 4th grade.
Okay. I hadn't heard that one, so that's good.
All right, so Colby, I'm looking just down on some of the things real quick since we tossed them. Usually we have Kurt puts together funny little trivia games and stuff like that. And since Scott was teaching all day, and then I told him 10 minutes before he let out of school, I said, "Hey, you want to jump on this podcast real quick?" We didn't get anything for as far as Michigan trivia, but I was wondering who put Accelerated Reader into the document. Was that you?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So I would love to hear your thoughts on Accelerated Reader if it doesn't get you into too much trouble.
Oh, no, I think it's one of the worst things that we can do to children is make them take a stupid multiple choice test and then give them prizes for books that they read. Yeah, I think it's destroying readers. I think that it's a waste of money. I think that money should be spent on books. I think that the accelerated people are master marketers, and I'd give anything to have that $4, subscription. Each one of them is paid for each one of my students to buy some books for my classroom. Yeah, it's such a joke, and I probably should stop there because I saw somewhere in this document that I'm not supposed to use swear words in this podcast.
Oh, okay, right. Well, we can bleep it out. We can bleep it out too if you want to.
So, yeah. Accelerated reading. There's no research. There's no research that shows that it has any positive impact on student achievement, except for studies that they put together themselves.
And Colby, you're not alone on that. I mean, we're talking. Gail and Joan, the two sisters, feel the same exact way that you do about that. With Daily 5, they are very passionate, like you are, about not being on board with that kind of reinforcement for reading.
I know. I could see Scott jumping all over this one. Now, I have to say, I've been old school. I've been old school not liking Accelerated Reader since about the late 90s. I mean, I've really thought, I was like...
Well, it's still the same, isn't it?
I think it is, and teachers just love it. Why do we know why that teachers really have this, like they're like, oh yeah, we've got to have accelerated reader. I've never really understood why teachers like that. I don't know what I mean, I remember looking at it like in 1997 and being like, oh, that's not very good. I just these little quick questions and earning of points, and sometimes the kids would just skim to see the answers or for the book. I just have never really understood that, but I wonder what it is. Maybe sometime we'll have to have somebody on it as a big accelerated reader booster and be like, why? I don't understand it, but I completely agree with you. That's why I saw that one. I'm like, oh yeah, good. There we go. I hate almost 2 decades on not liking accelerated reader. So I don't know. I just think, but there are some teachers that just they have to have it at the beginning of the year, like as the computer person. They're like, oh, we got to have accelerated reader. Don't understand it. I just don't understand it. So here, let's get into something positive then. So when we talk about independent reading, I liked in your video that you were talking about independent reading, and you want kids to feel like they can read and not just read at school, but read outside of school. And so what do you think are important ways to try and get kids to become those independent readers outside of school, not just like, oh, it's our school time, we've got to read?
Well, you definitely don't give them accelerated reader tests.
Right.
I think one of the biggest things is they need teachers that are readers. I think that, I read 1,000 children's books a year. So my kids know that I'm a reader. I know the books that they read, and I'm able to recommend great books. I have, 2,000 books in my classroom library. So, surrounding them with books, talking about books, and just letting them talk to each other about books, I think, or some simple read The Book Whisperer by Donald Miller. So that's my name drop there. It's one of the greatest books for teaching reading that I think has ever come out. One of the most important ones. So books like that, Nancy Atwell's The Reading Zone. And if you're thinking high school, Penny Kittle's Book Love, Kelly Gallagher's Read Aside. Those are, four or five of the books that I think have just changed the way we look at, reading and making it more of a workshop and not some basal reader where we're all reading the same story and we all want to just jump out of a window together. Teacher too.
Yes. I mean, sometimes we get those. Don't even get me started. I won't even go down there. We already talked accelerated reader. I won't talk like basal reader stuff from the 90s. That's way too old for us to even go into. When we're thinking about, who's our resident? Allison reads a ton, but who has to exercise. Oh, Allison's not reading a ton lately. She kind of looked at me sheepishly there. But Kurt reads. We have to give a shout out to Kurt, who is our doctoral candidate extraordinaire, University of Kentucky basketball team. But he is the reader. That guy is in Ireland. And even on Voxer, he's still talking about the books that he's reading right now. He's like, oh, I've almost finished this. He's only been there like 3 days. I finished 3 books and 4 Guinnesses. I'm like, Kurt, just enjoy yourself, relax. Yeah. But that's just Kurt. He loves to read. And I guess even if you have an administrator like that just shows that reading that you just love to read. That
I always share my favorite quote with my students, and a lot of them don't get it. I share it with the parents too. I can't remember who said this, but it's in 5 years from today, you'll be the same person you are, except for the books you read and the people you meet.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, and I really believe that. I believe that, and we're in such a lucky time in education where we can be so connected. So I can meet so many people. I was sitting at McDonald's preparing for a presentation, an hour ago, and here I am talking to these awesome people, and so I think that the way that we can meet more people and can make us better people, and the books that we read too, is just such an important way to grow.
Yeah, I agree with you too. I think, it is great. I was just sitting there and we were talking a little bit. There's a big conference going on in Austin right now, and I'm just not even there, but I keep just meeting the people after the conference or before the conference. We just have these great conversations, and I just think, yeah, this is the way to go. I'll just hang out outside, do what I want to do, and then when you guys get finished with going to these sessions, I'll just come and meet with you, and then you can just share what you've learned or what you haven't learned, and then I'll come and just chat with you for a while, and that's what I've been doing. So it's a good low budget way to do a conference, but we have to remember Nerd Camp. the cost is
Nothing.
free. There you
Yeah.
go. And I think that's what makes it what's awesome about it. Then you've got all these great people, and then it's just free. And I think that my hat's off to your wife and everybody and yourself that just made that happen, because it sounds like you guys are real. I don't know what it is about. Tell us here. Here's a good question. We always talk about what's wrong with David Terrio, Scott Bedley, or what's the matter with David Terrio. What is up with the Michigan teachers? Al, don't you agree? All these great people in Michigan. What is going on up there? All right, Colby, explain. What
It's
is it?
in
Are
the
you guys
water.
eating Frosted Flakes or what?
It must be the lake water.
I think it's the Frosted Flakes from Battle Creek.
Well, I think that we have some really strong leaders in people like, Nick Provenzano, the nerdy teacher, and Brad Wilson. I don't want this to turn into the I Love Brad Wilson podcast, but, Brad Wilson has totally changed the way that I look at things. Like, when Nerdy Book Club, we're doing pretty good, and then I got me some Twitter followers, and I'm, Colby Sharp is rocking, life is good, and to talk to Brad and to think,
Uh-oh.
Did I lose you, Colby? You guys
I'm going
here?
to have an impact where I live, in my school, in my county, in my state, and if, things get bigger nationally, that's great, but, you need to have an impact, on the kids that you're working with, in the schools that you're working with the teacher that you're teaching third grade with. And I think that's kind of our mentality in Michigan. We're not going to take the back seat to anybody. We think, we're doing some awesome things, and we're in each other's classrooms. We have our own Twitter hashtag, and we have our weekly chat, and we have so much to learn from each other. I think everyone has the educators that we have. We've just found a way, through Brad Wilson's leadership, to connect and to be, a force together.
One of my favorite Michigan people, I don't know if you know her, Colby, is Rebecca Wildman. She is awesome. Some of the stuff that she's doing, I don't know. Just Michigan is...
She's like Traverse City, I think. So north.
Yeah, Boyne City, I think.
Yeah, she does the iTunes U.
Yeah, iTunes U. She's doing some amazing things with younger kids too, which is awesome and inspirational for sure.
Well, I don't know about turning this into the I Love Brad Wilson podcast, but I'll confess it right now. I love Brad Wilson.
I love Brad Wilson. I should have put my
Brad Wilson has probably been
t-shirt
one of Techlandia's guests that's been on the most, right, Allison?
Twice, right?
Yeah, he's been on twice or three times.
Poor guy didn't learn the first time.
Oh, I know.
Brad, I don't know you, but I'd love to go out on a date sometime or something.
Oh my goodness. Well, you know what I have to say, I feel the same. I feel like you guys in Michigan are just on, like all the educators in Michigan. I feel like you guys are all we could name them all, but we don't need to name them all. They're all out there and they're top notch. I really feel like that same thing is happening in California too, and that's where Scott Bedley is located. And Scott Bedley is one of the people. I feel like he's the Brad Wilson of California, getting everybody together.
He needs that on.
But you know what? Seriously, Colby, in California, they're the same way. They like the people are always pushing each other. They're sharing ideas. They're going out for sushi, right, Scott? They're having Q sushi, Q baseball, Q coffee, whatever. I mean, whatever it is, they just put Q behind it, and then they just all go and talk ed tech. But it's really cool, and they have a good community there as well. So I feel like California and Michigan right now. If any other states, any of the other 20 Techlandia listeners want to step up and nominate their state, go ahead. I will speak for Texas and say I just don't. Texas. I feel like we're trying to kind of grandstand a little bit too much in Texas, and I'll include myself with that too. So
I like the people in Oregon. I'll nominate. I don't know if we're better than
right. I mean,
North California, but we are on par. There just might not be as many.
Right. California and Oregon are like the same state.
I think it goes back to what Colby was saying. Is it's about relationship, and where you have people building relationships that are authentic and real and honest about what you're doing in your classroom, what you're doing in education, what you're trying to do, and the failures and the successes. That's when you have people doing things that are innovative and driving each other forward and sharing and encouraging each other and doing things for free, not charging for everything and not you know, I don't know. I love that, Colby, that you're trying to do it without cost to the people that you know you want to support and encourage. So that's rad.
Thank you.
Anything? All right, I'm looking at the last thing, so we should wrap it up a little bit. I'm sure Colby has to get going. It's like 6 o'clock for him. He probably wants to eat dinner. But why don't you pick one of the things? Did you want to talk about Lisa Graff, or did you want to talk about the
I put
anniversary
that last
call?
one in.
You put the last one in? Why
I'd
don't you
love to
talk
hear
about
the last one.
go ahead and just talk about the book that you for people that you want to suggest then, Absolutely Almost.
Absolutely Almost by Lisa Graff. It just came out last week, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with the book Wonder by R.J. Fletcher.
Oh, my favorite book ever.
Wonder was a book that I think really changed the way that we looked at life and the way that we looked at school and the way that we look at each other. I think Absolutely Almost is the most important book in children's literature since Raquel Palacio's Wonder. It's about a boy who's not really great at anything, but he wants to be great. He wants to be special. He wants to find something that he's good at. And I think it's really interesting in the book is I think that he learns that you need to find something that you love to become great at instead of finding something that you're great at to love. I just think it's a really important book. I think that it could really do some special things for kids that need to see that aren't the superstar athlete or aren't super popular, but maybe have a learning disability, that they can see that they need to find something that they love, and then that's what they can be great at.
Colby, you just made my entire summer. I've been waiting since I finished. Cece, my going to be 6th grader, and I read Wonder last summer together, and we've both been just waiting. Like, what's the next book that's going to be as good as that one?
Now, Allison, have you seen the Julian chapters that they just released from Wonder?
No.
So in Wonder, Julian is the bully, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
A lot of people were really curious as to why he didn't have a voice, because the book is told from multiple perspectives, and Julian never had a chance to tell his story.
Mm-hmm.
And what Miss Palacio has done is she has written. It's only an ebook, but it is his story and him sharing why he acted the way that he did, and why, just giving him a chance to share his story.
I think that's so great too, because just lately, I don't know, I've heard someone talking, I think it was on the news, and their child was being bullied, and they just were very adamant that they want there to be consequences, and it kind of hit me like, what consequences do you want for the other 10-year-old? I mean, just don't forget that they're both 10. One's not a adult doing, making horrible decisions. So I love that that's coming out then, the voice of from Julian.
Please let me know what you think of Absolutely Almost, Allison. I'd love to hear.
I just ordered it. It's on the way.
Maybe it's yeah. I love that this says the Brad Wilson of California.
That's right.
Colby, you've probably read it, but Out of My Mind, it just blows my students away every year I read it. I mean, that's one of those life-changing books. So to hear about Absolutely Almost, I'm really excited to get a copy of it too. I haven't ordered it yet though.
Out of My Mind is brilliant. Sharon Draper is an amazing woman.
That's right. You can listen to a Sharon Draper interview at the Bedley Brothers podcast, which is now on Podomatic, being uploaded by Tim Bedley. Massive quantities of programming and podcasts are being uploaded as we speak, probably, most likely. Is that correct? Is Tim getting on it?
Let me text him and find out.
Okay, all right, let's see.
Otherwise, he's going to get some consequences.
That's right. We'll give him some consequences. We'll start bullying him on Twitter. We'll cyberbully him. All right. We totally won't practice what we were preaching against right here. We'll just bully people on Twitter. I was going to tell him he had to be on Techlandia next time. That's right. Well, Colby, thank you so much for taking the time out of your conference, and you're getting stuff ready to talk with us. And we'll make sure we put this one up. And Nerd Camp is shooting for, is it July 6th? Am I correct? Do I remember it correctly? Is it July 6th this year?
July 7th and 8th.
7th and 8th, okay.
And is there still space? Or are you guys sold? Are you guys
Last year we
sold?
limited it to 300.
Mm-hmm.
This year we said, if you come, we will find a way to make it work. So we have no cap, which is terrifying, Mrs. Sharp.
Wow.
Hey, Colby, if people wanted to start one locally, some kind of nerd camp, can they contact you? Is that cool?
Yeah, absolutely. They had one in Maine last winter. There's one in the works for Nerd Camp San Antonio. There's one in the works for a nerd camp actually in the Pacific Northwest.
Where?
Portland?
They're working on one up there. Yeah, in
Which
Washington.
Okay. You gotta tell me the name of who's spearheading that one. See if I can.
Right, nothing happened. No conference happens without Allison knowing about it in the Pacific Northwest. She
I
has
just
her
wanna
fingers
know.
on every one of them. No, she does. If there's like a maker fair, it's Allison. If there's a ed camp, it's Allison. What else have you started? What was the other?
Playdate. We had a playdate.
Playdate was Allison. Oh, that's funny. Well, Colby, thanks so much for being on here, and we'll get this one uploaded as soon as possible. Hopefully, at least 20 people will listen to it, and then maybe they can make the decision to make the trek up to Michigan, because that sounds like a great time. I wish I could. I'll just be in Arizona at that time, so that's too bad.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's great to meet you, and please don't be a stranger on the Twitters. I'm sorry that I'm learning about all this stuff. I feel embarrassed that my lack of social media networking right now, but at least now we have connected, and
Yeah.
I think you are just doing an awesome job. So
Thanks.
keep up
I
the
think
great
I
work.
think that's really the next step in Twitter is us getting out of me being in the reading shell and people being in the tech shell and the ed leadership shell and us all. I really want to have a conference where we're all more of us all there. So I think that's a big thing. You can't be connected with everything, but I think the more that we can learn from each other and across content areas and expertises, the better we'll be.
I think so. I agree. I totally agree with you. Well, thank you very much, Allison. Do you have any last words?
I hope that Craig Ann has a good summer.
Oh wow, Allison remembered her
Look, I was
last
thinking
words.
of that.
All right, we'll catch you on the flip side.